Welcome back to another Wisdom Wednesday discussion. I am Sans Inspire, your guide, generating, uplifting, inspiring, developing, and empowering you to live inspired every day forever. Why? Because that's life. Come on out. Out with the old life, in with the new life, where we are living inspired every day forever. Last week we talked about joy as an introduction, that it is possible for us to live in joy and that we should be living in joy. This week, we're going to take it a step further, because this week we're actually going to talk about the practice of living in joy or living fulfilled. It is possible for us to live in it, not just around it, but you can actually live in it. The intent for all our discussions is to uplift, empower, and inspire. Yet for this specific discussion, the sustaining of joy, we want to instill that practice of nurturing joy consistently. So talking about what is it, now we want to begin to live it, to instill it in our daily life, not just in the fleeting moments, but as a daily practice, a rhythm, so that we can flow and align with our true spiritual nature. The outcome is that you will be able to sustain this joy deeply, living fulfilled, abundant, and balanced life. Because in this life, we are to inspire, which means we are to not stop prospering. It requires effort daily. That is our outcome. And so to get there, we need to be anchored in. And so to begin, let us affirm as we always do. So the affirmation that we're going to go with today: I embrace joy as a constant companion in every aspect of my life. I embrace joy as a constant companion in every aspect of my life. You know how they say misery likes company? That's true when joy is not around. So if joy is your constant companion, misery won't want your company. And I'm reflecting on that now because, again, these are things that maybe we have never heard before, but we felt it. We've longed for it. It was something that we thought about. And I know personally for me, this was something that I thought about. We always hear, or I always heard, like the negative, the misery loves company, right? But I never heard people talk about how you can live with the joy. We're always, things are always described as if we just have to accept the negativity. You got to accept evil. You got to accept the negative. There's nothing you can do. And that is not true. It's actually the fact that we were doing nothing, that no thing was happening to begin with. So, question, right? Is your joy dependent on outcomes, or is it rooted in who you are? Is your joy dependent on an outcome, the result? You got the job, now you're joyful. You get a raise, now you're joyful. Tax time, now we're joyful. Birthdays, now we're joyful. Or is it rooted in who you are? So even in a negating or negative moment, you still find joy. It doesn't have to have the happy ending. You don't have to have the outcome. And a lot of times this is when out of our mouth comes the praise. It's only in the positive moments. It's only when we are receiving When we're not receiving, are we still maintaining that joy? If the outcome isn't what you expected, are you still able to maintain that joy? This is what we want to know. Is your joy dependent on outcomes, or is it rooted in who you are? And what would life look like if joy wasn't a reaction, but a resource you live from? What would life look like? I tell you this. I'll give you a hint. It's not the old life, but a new life. And I know for me what my life looks like as joy being a resource. This is where life happened, honestly. This is when I started living life. It was recognizing my own life. And this is why I say out with the old, LiFE, right? And in with the new, LiEF, living inspired every day forever, because that is life. Because before, when I was uninspired, when I wasn't living in joy and that was life, it was miserable. I felt I had no control. There was nothing I can do. I am just a product of my environment, which means there's no improvement that can happen. I'm damned if I do. So I might as well not. Like that life felt controlling. It felt smothering. The walls were closing in. It was like all you can do is just die. That's it. There is no life. It's just this is it's you. Sorry. But that made no sense. That made no sense to me. And this I see where confusion can cause chaos, because that confusion that was in me of me believing that like I had no choice but to live a life that I didn't choose. Like I was born in the skin that I'm in the place that I live, and there was nothing that I could do to change that. That made no sense. Because the question that you asked is like, why would God do that? Because you're told that, God is loving, and, to believe in God, and in all things there you will find possibilities and potentials, and you start to wonder, well, then what did I do to deserve this? I was a baby and I grew up and everybody was telling me that this is where I came from. This is what I will be. Like, again, I was somebody that, because of my actions, and again, I blame nobody but myself. This isn't even a blame thing. It's a realization. Because I acted the way that I did, people reacted to me in the way that they knew how. So as a teenager, rambunctious, I was out in the streets. I was the prototypical, yeah, he gonna be dead or in jail. This is what I was told too. You gonna be dead or in jail. And so that's what I expected to happen. So when it didn't happen, Lucy, you got some explaining to do. That's how I felt. It was like, hold on, time out. Wait. I'm not dead or in jail. I made it past 18, 21, 24. So what does this mean then? What I thought couldn't have been right then. So then what was I accepting that I thought was right before? What life was I living when I accepted that there was nothing that I could do? That God will put me in a place where you're at the bottom and there's no way you can get to the top. You're stuck. That God would put me in a place that I'm stuck. That the universe, my ancestors, whatever it is that you prescribe to. There may be times, and I'm just saying this, because it's always upon me. There may be times that you hear me say something that you may not agree with. That is okay. Because I'm not attacking anything that you believe or what you stand on. Now, if it is challenged and you feel a certain way, that's different. That's within you. But if I use a term and you don't like it, like if I say God, you don't like that. If I say universe, you don't like that. And whatever, I am combining these terms like I combine these scriptures and these doctrines so that you have a holistic understanding of how it all relates to you. This isn't so I can pick and choose and hope that you would like me because of what I'm saying. I really, truly do not care about that. Because I've said things to try and get people to like me and they hated me. I've said things to try to get people to understand me and they misunderstood me. I've done things to get on someone's good side and it put me on their bad side. When we're trying to do things for that result, that is normally what causes the problem. And so I'm just clarifying because I ain't gonna do a lot of explaining. So again, something rubs you the wrong way because it's a word. Yay, whatever. It is what it is. We are not here to offend. Now that I've made that, let me get back to what I was saying. So to have my mindset, to accept a mindset that said that I would be put here and have no choice, but then be told through a constitution that I have free speech. For me growing up, I couldn't understand this thing. I said, how can I be stuck and be free? So how can a higher power put me in a position that I cannot get out of, yet I'm free to speak? And it was because those things were not necessarily true. It's just what I accepted. So this is why I had to get rid of the old life. That which I had accepted just because I was told to, it was told to me, it was given to me. I never verified anything to see what was mine to keep. So I had to get rid of everything. It's a fire sale. You let everything must go. And then you begin to rebuild off of that. And the first thing that I started to see was there's a component missing. And we talk about love and happiness. And I've felt happiness, yet love was fleeting because it was something that was described that love should feel like this or should feel like that or should look like this or should look like that. So when I found out what was missing, it was joy. And this was something that I had not heard a lot about. Like I've heard the word before, but it's not used a lot. You hear happiness so much. I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy, 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 joy, joy. You see, you say happy, happy, joy, joy. That's what popped in my head. It was like that saying, happy, happy, joy, joy. I didn't know what it meant at the time. I just know what is this word joy that I've heard before, but nobody seems to be talking about, be able to explain it, clarify it. Nobody's saying anything. It's because joy, the higher of the two, encompasses both. Joy will allow you to understand and receive love and express happiness. So without ever knowing joy, the higher, I am looking at the lower two. I'm looking for love and happiness, but I don't know joy. This is what was causing that confusion because joy is not an emotion. So it's not something that you just express. Like it is that practice, that presence, that path, it is that thing that we experience each day. So it may not be an emotion, for it is a practice. We develop it more. It is a presence that we exude, and it's a path that we follow. So sustaining that joy, like a river, it flows even though your life may seem stuck. It flows even though in your life the terrain changes. Sometimes we're up, sometimes we're down. Sustainable joy is that river. It's going to flow regardless. It moves through, around, in between. So it's not about avoiding the pain, which is what I was doing, because I wanted happiness. And to get happiness, which is a lot of momentary, right? So I can avoid pain and experience momentary happiness. But by, I want to say embracing, I wouldn't even say I embraced it. I just leaned into it. I wanted to understand that pain more. So there was no way I could avoid it, which caused me to begin to anchor down into that gratitude as I was approaching that pain, understanding the pain. I could see where it originated from. I could see how it happened and what I needed to do to get rid of it. Was not, was not to avoid it or to be fearful of it. It was to embrace it. Or that understanding was an embrace. It's like a hug. That gratitude. On the other side of that, that's when I experienced the joy. It was on the other side. So again, how we say it's a practice, a presence, a path. If you aren't practicing it, you won't experience it. If it's not part of who you are, and if you're not wanting to follow it, to seek after it, then you don't experience that. And if you're not experiencing joy, then it's hard to understand happiness and love. For in John 15:11, it says, "These things have I spoken unto you, that my joy might remain in you, and that your joy might be full." Okay, there we go. Excuse me. I had to lapse for a second. So John 15:11 says, "These things have I spoken unto you, that my joy might remain in you, and that your joy might be full." So when we hear that my joy might remain in you, it's talking about something that actually can be taken away from you or to be blocked from you experiencing. So these things have I spoken unto you in hopes not to demean you, to depress you, to negate you, but in hopes that the joy will remain in you, my joy. This is God telling you, this is what I gave you. And I'm telling you these things so that you will keep that joy, because there are going to be things that try to take it from you. And that if my joy remains in you, then your joy might be full. So if my joy isn't full, is the joy still in me? So we're talking about getting back again to that natural state. We have been fooled to think that joy is not your natural state, to think that it's natural for you to wake up miserable, for you to wake up mad, angry, sad, anything but joyful. Our natural state is joy. And these things have been said to us so that we will remain in that joy. And if we remain in that joy, then we will be full of joy. And if we're not full of joy, then we're just going backwards now. So if we're not full of joy, then that joy is not in me. So then I must go get it. I got to go find it because that's my natural state. So I have lost my way. Thessalonians 5, chapter 5, verse 16 through 18 says, rejoice always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances. This is the will of God. Thankful always, joyous always. So when we're talking about the will, and we have free will, and we have chosen to live outside of that. So simplify it. The problem in your life is that you are not in your natural state. You have not sustained the joy that you came with. We wonder why we look at little babies and they're just so, that's called joy. So as a baby, you see pure joy. The baby just laughing. If you ever heard a baby's cry, it is like, you talk about meditative music and stuff like that. If you ever sad, I don't know if you can find it. Maybe this is something we can create an Apple playlist, right? Go listen to a baby laughing and see if you can stay mad. I promise you, like it's hard. It's hard. And then I'm a parent, so I know how it was when I was angry. And I come home and then my little baby's laughing at whatever. Just, I don't know, stood over her and maybe I did peekaboo and she's just dying laughing. It's hard to stay mad when you see something like that. When you hear that, that's pure joy. That's our natural state. And so as we got older, as we grew up, and those laws and society dictated what we can do and what we can't do, who we are and who we're not, our natural state was being affected. We were being moved from our natural state into a unnatural posture, an unnatural state that we have since just gotten used to. You know it ain't right. It doesn't feel good. You have just gotten used to being unnatural. Just like they wanted to make us used to eating unnatural produce from the store. And then they had to make labels. This is natural. This is organic. We have since been made to have an unorganic experience. For again, Buddha tells us there is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path. So if we go back to John 15:11, where it says, my joy might remain in you, that you might be full. And then we go back to the introduction where we talked about that joy is not a practice. Joy is a practice, excuse me. It's a presence and a path. We can see where it is us who've gotten off. Because there is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path. So if I'm not experiencing that happiness, then I'm off the path. And that happiness leads to that joy. So joy is the practice, the presence. It is the path. So if I am not in joy, then guess what? I am not experiencing happiness. So I am not on the right path because it was told to me that my natural state is joy. It was told to me so that joy remained in me and that I would be full of joy. And if these things are not happening, that is the actual issue. That is why the old life removed it from us, and the new life will return it. In the Tao Te Ching, chapter 44, it says, be content with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are. When you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you. The issue is when you hear that, all you have been programmed to think of is lack. So you are wondering, how can I not think of lack when all I see is lack? That's a program. And so just as we have been programmed to see nothing, we are going to reprogram ourselves to see something, to see everything. But it starts with us being content with what we have. It starts with the now, that present moment of, okay, great, you're not a millionaire. So what? You know why? Because there's miserable millionaires out there, plenty of them. So what? You don't have the millions. What do you have? You got this, you got that, you got this, you got your health, you got the love of your family, whatever it is for you. Start with that. Be content with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are right now. And I know you're struggling. You're like, how am I going to rejoice? I'm sick in the hospital. I got a broken leg. My dad is this. And then rejoice in the way things are. Because what you're saying, not only to yourself, to your higher self, to the higher power, to the universe, to God, is that there is nothing to be joyful for. That my whole life is miserable, every single aspect of it. So you don't want it. Because what we may not understand is we have a lot more say so than we believe. So if you say you don't want it, you won't have it. So when you are able to rejoice in the way things are, you are recognizing that there has never been a time where there was nothing to find joy in. There's never a time. Even in that darkness, even in your lowest point, even in death, there's light. Even in death, there is life. Even in darkness, there is light. And when you realize there is nothing lacking, the world belongs to you. Does that mean the world outside? So now you can go and say, I'm the president of you. No, that doesn't mean that. That is actually what's causing the malfunction is we're looking at the outside world, not recognizing the world belongs to me, my world. If you were in control of the whole world, but not in control of your own world, are you actually in control at all? And so a lot of us have that desire to control things outside of ourselves, but not to control ourselves. Who we fooling? And an African proverb tells us that joy is not the absence of suffering, but the presence of purpose. And this is something that we must learn. You don't get rid of suffering at all. A millionaire, a billionaire still suffers. The king still suffers. There's nothing, there's no one that does not suffer. So to think that we're going to get rid of that, you don't get rid of it. You get over it. So again, we hear that and we kind of get over it. It feels like somebody maybe downplaying your emotions or what you're going through. And I'm simply saying like this. If you can visualize something that's in your way and you get over it, it's no longer in your way anymore. So to get over is to actually get over it. So instead of saying get over it, let's say go over it. Maybe that would be better. It does not stop or cease. You simply see the way out of it, the way around it. to go over it. So as we understand joy as a spiritual practice, something that we can sustain, we identify it as the fruit of alignment, not a fleeting feeling, something we got to chase behind. The fruit, you go grab it, right? So we often seek joy only in those moments, but sustaining that joy, that's in motion, that's in stillness, that's in surrender. It's all the time. So we build that in our movement, in our stillness, and in our surrender. There's joy. So whether I'm doing something, I'm in joy. When I'm sitting still, I'm in joy. And when I let go, I really enjoy because I ain't know what I was doing anyway. So let that go. I ain't even worried about it no more. That's probably when I experience my most joy. It's like, oh, let it go. Woo, get it off me. Because there was a time where I would not do that. There was no surrender. Ain't no surrender, no retreat. We gonna keep going. Now we understand what it means. So we let go. We're not gonna fight. We're not gonna tussle. You got it. It's yours. So when we're seeing fleeting happiness, we're seeing it leave and we're trying to chase behind it. Wait, don't go. Please, no. That's external. That's temporary. That's reactionary. So though that fleeting happiness comes from outside, it comes from temporary things and it comes from reactions. So you got to raise, yay, happiness. Tax time, which is temporary, comes around once a year. Yay, happiness. External validators, yay, happiness. But when they're gone, what happens? If that external validation isn't there, the happiness is away from you. And so to sustain the joy, we go from outside to inside. Sustaining joy is internal. It's intentional. Because it's internal, because it's intentional, it's resilient. There's a theme that we're starting to see in life. Anything that is outside of us is temporary. Anything that is inside of us is eternal. Outside may be accidental, inside is intentional. Outside is fleeting, inside is resilient. So when we're able to understand that there is nothing lacking, when we're able to have gratitude for ourselves, we can begin to see that these things, especially our emotions, when we're not reacting to them, they're telling us where we're at, which can show us where we need to go. But we react to them all the time. So you don't get the information from it. So what I'm saying is, again, anything outside of ourselves is external, temporary, fleeting. Things that originate from inside of ourselves are eternal, intentional, and resilient. So if in my life I am seeing things that are fleeting, that are temporary, my focus must be external. So I don't need to get mad at myself. I don't need to beat myself up. I don't need to compare myself to anybody. I just need to be able to sit still and recognize, to see these things, to say, dang, these things are happening in my life. And to say, well, what does that mean? If I lost another job and nobody likes me, and now that is dictating my happiness, my focus is external. Because when I turn that focus internal, I'm not looking outside for that validation. So because it is coming from inside of me, it's always going to stay. It's eternal. It's not going nowhere. Because I am deliberately doing this, it is intentional. I am putting that intent in each moment of each day to give myself that. And because of that, it's resilient. It's going to stick with me. It's not just going to disappear at the first sign of trouble like that fleeting happiness would. And so, how that joy then becomes abundant is through the gratitude. We know this because before we didn't have that gratitude, especially towards ourselves. We might have been grateful to somebody or someone or something once we receive something. Remember that external temporary validation. Now we're grateful. Thank you. I'm grateful because I received this house and this car and this new job opportunity. But joy thrives where gratitude is. Joy thrives where gratitude lives. Joy becomes abundant when we are present, when we're finding joy in the ordinary things. Like I told you, a baby's laughter. Can you find joy in a baby's laughter? Or does that sound just irritate you? Oh, I wish the baby would shut up. That's where we're at. Can you find joy in the sun rising? Or simply because it's another day you irritated because you don't want to go to work or have to do this or the external versus internal. Something something that brought me joy recently that is ordinary, ordinary. That a lot of people might be like, what the hell? Because I get joy from things like this. I got dish soap. Dish soap. Damn, dish soap. Yep, dish soap. Why? Because being cheap, I bought some. I don't know what the hell this soap was, but it was water. And I had this for the longest, and it was just like, man, I just want to get some good dish soap in here. So when I was able to get to the store and get some good dish soap, I was like, that was a moment of joy for me. When I'm able to get to the store, or actually cooking in the kitchen provides me joy. When I'm able to cook a meal for myself, that provides me joy. What used to happen is I used to have fleeting happiness because I didn't have gratitude and I wasn't present. So the thought of having to cook a meal, I would say, I gotta cook. Well, I got a discussion at 7:30. It's 9 a.m. I'm already projecting the rest of my day how I'm not gonna have time to do something for myself. So then what I do is that's the excuse that I use to go out and buy something, right? So now I just go get some fast food because I ain't got time for it. Then I get that meal and it's not even that good. Now I'm upset because the meal that I bought from this place ain't good and I'm complaining about them. But I created that because something that would bring me joy or happiness, I took that away because I'm worried about the time that it's going to take. So I don't do it because it might take too much time. So then I go with the thing that doesn't take much time and it doesn't provide much nourishment. It's not fulfilling. It's fleeting. This damn thing. Now I'm affected because I didn't really get a fulfilling meal. I didn't like it. I paid for it. I'm taking from myself. Instead, now I'm saying, okay, I'm gonna go to the store and I'm gonna get the ingredients to make me something simple as some tacos, and I'm gonna make them how I want to make them. Take all the steps that I need to take the time that I need to take, and then realize that I took that time, and because I did that, it was delicious. I love to eat them. Now I'm actually satisfied. I'm fulfilled. I'm happy. I'm ready to go. But before I didn't have no time because I was in a rush. Now I have time, for there is no rush. Because I had to really understand what is important in my life. I get society and I get people, but what is important in my life? What things bring me joy? And if it brings me joy, then I need to make the space for that, because things that I've been making space for, things that I've been present for, have been taken from me. So now joy becomes abundant because I can offer gratitude to myself for making those decisions. And I can do that every day because we're living inspired every day. So we never stop prospering. It requires effort daily. So when I began to give this effort, this is when joy started to be present. And then because joy is now present, I can find that joy in ordinary things that other people might be like, the hell? What? This guy's crazy. What is wrong with him? Exactly. And joy becomes abundant lastly because of generosity. Sharing joy amplifies it. I used to I used to have a negative mindset about everything. So what that looks like is if I see something, I'm going to create a negative out of that. No matter what it is. No matter what it is. I'm going to create a negative out of it. And what that did was took from me. It wasn't given to me. It took from me. So there were moments where I would see somebody outside, let's say begging for change. And I would say, well, they probably got a nice car around the corner, or they probably don't need this, or they probably, what does that have to do with anything? That's me not wanting to give. Why didn't I want to give? Because at that point in time, I didn't think I had anything to give. So I'm holding on to everything, to my last $5 because I need it. Thought I did. I lacked the gratitude. I wasn't present. So I ain't being generous. You know why? Because didn't nobody give me nothing. So why should I give you nothing? So why should I give you anything? Well, nobody will ever give you anything if you never give. And if we go around with that mindset that nobody ever gave me anything, so why should I give you anything? You think you're hurting them, but you're hurting you. Nobody ever gave you joy. So you're going to go rob everybody else of theirs. This is how the villain story starts. So your hero arc is in defiance of that. Because again, I was told that my life should have been over. And there are other kids, there are other adults, there are other elders that still have this mindset. That no matter what they do, they ain't gonna be able to get out because somebody somewhere is controlling something. That affects our generosity. We don't want to share joy, so it doesn't amplify. So what we share is what is amplifying. We have been sharing our fears, our uncertainties, and our doubts, and it's amplifying. To where more people are fearful, uncertain, about themselves and doubtful about their life. And so when I had that mindset, I wouldn't even give $5 to the homeless. I would put myself in a position that was like, oh, I know I'm better off in certain aspects than they are. But then when I see them, I'm rolling down my window, turning away, looking the other way. Oh, no, I don't have nothing, lying just because I don't want to be generous. How? It wasn't until I changed that. And I remember when it happened. It was literally the last $2 that I had. The last $2 that I had. And I just pulled up, stopped at a stoplight. There's a guy to my left, and something just told me to. I was like, no, I don't have anything. And it was like, yes, you do. You got $2 in your pocket. And so I was like, you know what? I got $2. I don't got much. I got $2 right here. Then I just cleaned out all the change that I had in my car because it was sitting there. And I thought about this. I said, I have change that sits in here every single day. And it's just waiting for the moment just in case I need to use it. Well, this is that just in case I need to use it. So I gave all my change and the last $2 that I had to my name. Get to the store later on, and I'm short by $2 and some change. And the cashier said, don't worry about it. $2 and some change. And I'm just like, what the hell going on? Like, oh man, those moments have always brought me anxiety from my childhood. We used to have to go to the store, pay with food stamps, then get denied and have all these groceries. Now you just like, so anytime I have a moment like that, that'll bring me somewhat anxiety. And I'm grateful that I don't have many moments like that anymore. But the cashier told me, don't worry about it. This wasn't no 10 cent, I got you in my pocket. This was $2 and some change. And they said, don't worry about it. I got $2 right here. Huh? Here you go. Literally, I'm not making this up. I wish I could say that that's when I realized I still didn't realize it at that moment. Didn't even put two and two together. So it's these moments that are stacking together. When I reflect on them, I see it and say, dang, that was a moment that when I gave, I received. So all those moments I didn't want to give, I was not receiving anything. My generosity was blocked. I wasn't present. I wasn't grateful. I wasn't living in joy. When I began to live in joy, I began to be grateful, to be present, and to be forever generous, to just want to share that joy, to share this inspiration, to inspire others. For Nehemiah 8, verse 10 says, the joy of the Lord is your strength. The joy. Which reminds us that joy is not an emotion. It is a spiritual force of resilience and renewal. A force of resilience and renewal. The more joy we have, the more resilient we can be. So if we are not resilient, we lack the joy. Let's keep it simple. We're searching all over for all these things, and it's like, if I was living in joy, I would be resilient. And I would be renewed. So I'm not living in joy. So that's what I need to find then, more ways to live in joy. I don't need to try and find how to be more resilient. Because then I'm going to find 1,000 different things when there is one thing and it opens up everything. Yet it's not as easy to get Two, because you got to go through those emotions. Joy keeps us resilient and renewed. The Dhammapada tells us, give up the lesser happiness for the greater. The lesser is happiness. The greater is joy. Happiness is easier to attain, so we just go for those happiness. We can get happiness if we just got a Coke and a smile. Oh, happy. Then it's gone. Coke gone. Joy is the greater. So give up the lesser happiness for the greater joy. In the Bhagavad Gita, it tells us one whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, is the perfect yogi. One whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, is the perfect yogi. The student, the spirit. Galatians 5:22 tells us, and I got to go to, let me pull my note out for this one. Excuse me. Did I not write that one down? No, I did. Excuse me. Okay. So it says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith. Verse 23 then says, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. So Galatians verse 23 says meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. But Galatians 5:22 says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith. Why is that important? Because it's telling us that the fruit of your spirit is joy, that it's love, that it's peace, that it is long suffering. Why is that important? Because we think that long suffering takes us away from joy. Long suffering is what actually keeps you grateful. Because what are we saying here? Well, they say, right, evil. And again, this is not religious, please, but I have to go off on this real quick. They say evil will give you all the rewards, right? The devil will grant you all the rewards. The physical pleasures will be yours immediately. But if you walk with a higher power, if you walk with God, if you walk with the universe, you got to wait. So a lot of people don't want to wait. So they turn away from, so they can get that immediate gratification. Yet long suffering is part of the fruit of your spirit. Just like losing is what you need to do in order to win, but you want to avoid the loss. You know how you avoid the loss? Hey man, come over here and do something for me and I'll put you in position. And what happens to all those people? They get moved out of their position later on because you trusted in man and you did what they asked you to do so that you can get paid. You didn't want to go the long route, the long suffering. That is what rewards you. So you ain't got nothing to stand on. So everybody who wants to avoid loss and just win, you won't have it for long. And those who you're laughing at because they're losing, when they winning, you're going to be crying. Not the tears of joy that they're going to cry, because that long suffering is what you rejoice when you finally make it. That long suffering is what adds to your gentleness, your goodness, your faith, your love, your joy. The loss is what helped you understand the wins. So by removing that, you take away from the most important aspect of our existence, your experience. So then what are you expressing? Lack, because you haven't experienced it. You don't know what it's like. You keep taking the shortcuts. You keep putting in the cheat codes. You keep asking for somebody else to do for you what you can do for self. So I wanted to point to that because a lot of times we're avoiding that. We don't want to go through that long suffering. We don't see how love, joy, peace are a part of your spirit. That means they should be there every single day, not just today, tomorrow, the next day. They were there yesterday. Every single day of your existence, you should be able to see and find and feel and express love, joy, peace. For Rumi tells us when you do things from your soul, the river of joy moves through you. So, what do I need to surrender today in order to return to joy? What do I need to surrender today in order to return to joy? For to sustain our joy, it's a simplistic process. So, simplicity and presence is what is the process that's going to allow us to sustain our joy. For joy is maintained by what you nurture, not just what you receive. It's what you nurture. We have to nurture ourselves. It's your heart that hurt. So who's going to fix that? The surgeon? No, it's you. These are our traumas, my traumas that I went through. So I have to understand, to learn how to nurture that. I can't expect you to do it for me. I can't even expect you to understand what I went through. It's not about you. So by practicing that mindfulness, simplicity, and inner gratitude, I move myself towards this on a daily basis. And the strategies to overcome that. When we look at scarcity and we ask ourselves, what do I have? We look at scarcity. And we say, what do I have? Try to take inventory. What do I have? I don't have anything. Let's reframe these things. What's missing? If I ask myself, what do I have to try and figure it out. What do I have? If I ask myself what's missing, I'll be shown just that. So what's missing here? You're going to say, oh, I don't got, dang it, where's my keys? Where's my phone? Reframe our scarcity. Release perfectionism. Because joy exists in the messy middle. It's in the mess. It's in the middle where all the chaos is. That's where the joy is. Not on the edges where you're trying to be perfect. And this is something that I am telling to myself more than anything, because perfectionism has robbed me of a lot. Because I didn't put out things because I wanted them to look perfect and sound perfect and be perfect. There are even times where I'm having this discussion and I'm like, did that sound right? Did I say that right? I hope they're understanding, wanting to be perfect instead of just wanting to be present. So release that perfectionism. Recognize that it already is. And then protect your energy, right? Limit the negativity. That's people, places, and things, all the nouns, right? So limit the people that affect you negatively, right? Limit the media that affects you negatively. So before you even get to the people, You can eliminate the media, which we have a lot of. And the reason why we can eliminate that is because that is negatively affecting your energy more than you know. And it attributes to the next thing, that's self-talk. In order to improve that self-talk, you have to remove those things that are negating, that are pulling you. Because every time you hear something negative and it sticks in your mind, you are more likely to recite that, whether it's externally or internally. You heard literally the news say something, and a few days later in your mind, you're limiting yourself because of that. You want to do something, you heard the news say, don't go over there because so you say, well, I was going to go over there, but then I remember on the news it said don't go over there. Or it says 60% of men always do this. So you just said, well, just not to do that because it says 60% of men. You have to remove these things so that you can see their effect on you to begin with. The people that have been talking to you, how they talk to you, how they treat you, the media, and that self-talk, when those people aren't around, those things aren't around, are you protecting yourself from yourself? Do you hear how you talk about yourself? Are you encouraging or discouraging? Because that a lot of times is going to make you either stand up, sit down, or just lay down. I don't want to do that. I'm done. So the spiritual anchors that we have to anchor this down comes from Isaiah chapter 30, verse 15. It says, in quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. In quietness and in confidence. For thus saith the Lord, the Holy One of Israel, in returning and rest shall ye be saved. In quietness and confidence shall be your strength. In returning and rest shall ye be saved. Returning, to go back to, and to rest. When we hear that, when we hear returning, we don't think of what it's talking about, which is reflection. So when you reflect and you rest, that's where you'll be saved. In the quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. So reflect and rest, be quiet and be confident. And that is going to be your strength. These are the things that we don't do on a daily basis. We're not reflecting on yesterday or even today. To rest, relax, be still, do nothing. Being quiet so that you hear, so you can receive. And that building your confidence, which then shows your strength. Nah, I ain't know that. Somebody I just saw on YouTube where somebody had a 30-day course where they was going to help me build my confidence in 30 days. These are the things that we want to do. Because to reflect is going to cause us to go back, to return somewhere we don't want to be. To rest means we're going to be uncomfortable because we're so used to doing any and everything that we not doing nothing at all. So the actual thought or the actual act of doing nothing is going to cause you pain and suffering. So you won't be able to be quiet. So then your confidence is going to be affected and you won't be strong. And you're going to have all these questions. God, why? Why? We must reflect, rest, be still. And in confidence shall be your strength. The Tao Te Ching says, he who knows others is wise. He who knows himself is enlightened. And on the news, they tell you about everything else. That's why we say they are so wise. They can't tell you about themselves. Proverbs chapter 4:23 says, keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. The issues of life come from where? My heart. And the Buddha says the root of suffering is attachment. We're attaching ourselves to everything. And this is something that I speak a lot with the teens and vets that I deal with. Because especially as veterans, and I mean veterans in the sense of those who have served in the military, and also just veterans as a respectful way of saying people who are older than me, my elders. But especially with combat veterans or military vets, what we end up seeing is we've attached ourselves to so much, we lost who we were. Like, who are you? Well, I'm an 0311 infantryman in the United States Marine Corps. No. Remove all that. Well, I'm a father and loving husband. And no, remove all that. There's so much that we have attached to. I'm a United States citizen. And no, remove all that. You have attached to so much that it's caused your suffering because all those things are in the way of who you really are. When you stand in the mirror, you see all these other things. You don't see you. The root of our suffering is that we're attached to any and everything, and it's just carrying us everywhere. So what we want to do, practical things that we can do, practicing that gratitude daily. Because you don't owe them, you owe yourself this. This isn't for them. I know it's going to be hard. You're like, why should I give my ex any gratitude? It ain't about them. It ain't about them. It ain't about your old boss. This ain't about your parents. It's about giving you what you've never had. Practice gratitude every day. Release attachment to expectations. You don't know what they think, how they're going to react. So release that. Don't expect anything from them. Begin to understand yourself to know why you do the things you do. And then find joy in simplicity, right? Go for a walk. Yep, go for a walk. You ain't got to go for a 5-mile walk or even a 1-mile walk. You go for a 5-minute walk. Just go for a walk. Learn about breath work, actual breathing. Because what you may be doing right now is not actually breathing. I know. I thought it was too. Prayer. Understanding what that truly means. And then creative expression. Create and express yourself. Don't be afraid. And I'm talking to myself more than anything. Because each day I still battle with these things about being afraid to do something. And one thing that I've learned is in that moment when you're afraid to do it, do it. Do it. Don't wait till after. Do it in that moment. You're afraid to do it? Do it. Do it. Do it. Hey, Paulie, do it. Right in that moment. Don't wait. Just do it. Because when joy is your foundation, I'm telling you, you're going to stop chasing. You're going to stop chasing peace and you're going to embody that. You're going to stop chasing joy and you're going to embody that. You understand that joy is the seed that you plant, not just in yourself, but in others. And it's based on our presence. So if I'm showing up and present in that moment, in that space, that's seed of joy I'm going to plant in others around. And that sustainable joy comes from releasing what interrupts your flow, not holding on to it. Whatever is interrupting you, let it go. If your toilet is clogged, it ain't gonna flush. If your life is clogged, it ain't gonna flow. Let it go. Deal with it later. You don't have to respond. You don't have to say nothing because this is about maintaining your joy. Philippians 4, chapter 4:13 says, I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. And I hear that so much, and it is true. Yet I want to support that by reading Philippians chapter 4, verse 12, so that we know what things, because it says all things, right? But what are those things? I know both. So this is Philippians chapter 4:12, and we're going to wrap it up after this. I know both how to be abased or low and humble. Abased means low and humble. And I know how to be abound, large, abundant, etc. So I know both how to be abased and I know how to be abound. Everywhere and in all things I am instructed. Everywhere and in all things I am instructed, both to be full and to be hungry, both to be abound and to suffer need. So understanding that, then when we say, I can do all things, yes, it's true. And all things that you can do are to be low and high, to be full and hungry, to be abundant and to suffer. All those things are done. So when we say that, we only think of the positive things. I can do all things, and we use it to say positive. No, no, no. It's both. Through Christ's energy, which strengthens you, you can be high. And through Christ's energy, which strengthens you, you can get through the low points. Because you were instructed to be both things, not one. You were instructed to be both full and hungry. Yet your focus is only how can I be full? So you lack the experience of being hungry. So this is why your joy ain't there. You can't get joy from one side. Joy comes from both. It comes from the hungry being full. That's joy. The full being full ain't joy. That's greed. So because we don't allow ourselves to flow the rhythm, we have blocked that. We are creating the negativity. You want to stay only on the full side. And in order to stay on that side, you got to be greedy. You got to take from somebody. If you just went back to the hungry side, then you would get full again. And then you would be hungry. And then you would be full. But we haven't learned how to be both, even though we were instructed to be both. So in the Dhammapada, it's going to back it up and says, live in joy, in love, even among those who hate. This is supporting what we just heard. Because if it tells us to be both full and to suffer, or to be full and to be hungry, and then it says live in joy and love even amongst those who hate. So it don't matter where you are. If you around a bunch of sinners, you can still be a saint. And if you're around a bunch of saints, you know sin. You're not trying to be one and not the other because all of this is who you are. So you must do it at all times in all things everywhere. And then the Tao Te Ching, it says, the master gives himself up to whatever the moment brings. He lets things come and go joyfully. Again, going back and supporting what we just heard, which says, I was instructed to be full and hungry. The master gives himself up to whatever the moment brings. If it calls for me to be full, I'm going to be full. If it calls for me to be hungry, then I will be hungry. It will come and go. And I will remain in joy. Do you have a joy ritual? Something you return to daily that realigns you with your inner light. If not, we need to create one. And so, in this portion, we are going to discuss the last part of creating our joy ritual. And this time, normally we have 3, but I've got 5 Q&A questions for you. And then after these questions, we close it out. So the first question that I have for you is, what is one thing that currently disrupts your joy, and how can you transform it into a practice of presence? What is one thing that currently disrupts your joy, and how can you transform it into a practice of presence? 2, how do you differentiate momentary happiness from sustained joy? How do you differentiate momentary happiness from sustained joy? And I'll give you a little hint. Remember, one of them is fleeting, temporary, and reactionary. Number 3, son. What habits or rituals can you adopt this week to cultivate sustainable joy? What habits or rituals can you adopt this week to cultivate sustainable joy? Son, sir. 4, what's one ordinary moment that brought you unexpected joy this week? Like my dish soap. What's one ordinary moment that brought you unexpected joy this week? Dish soap, bro. Shout out to Palmolive. We better get sponsored. What number 5, son, sir. What would it look like to prioritize joy as a non-negotiable? Ooh. What would it look like to prioritize joy as a non-negotiable? I'll give you a hint on that one too. It looks like a hostage terrorist negotiation. Ain't no negotiating no more. So what would it look like to prioritize joy as something that is non-negotiable in your life? Like, nope, we ain't negotiating this. It's either this or nothing. Mm-mm-mm. So in closing, sustainable joy isn't selfish. It's sacred. When you choose joy, you become light for others. And we want not only to light our path, but the path of others. So we must choose to sustain joy. So the challenge for this week, create a joy jar. Who took the cookies out the cookie jar? Who, me? Hey, we create a joy jar. So each day, if you would like, you can write one moment of joy on a piece of paper, drop it into that jar. At the end of the week, put your hands in the jar, pull it out, read them out loud, and feel the abundance. You can do this with yourself. You can do this with friends. You can do it with family. Write one moment of joy on a slip of paper. Just drop it in there. And then at the end of the week, this is reminding you that you did, get cut off in traffic on Monday, or you got fired, or whatever it was, but you still had moments of joy throughout that week. We must be reminded of this because it's easy for us to forget. We are going back to our natural state of things. Okay? And so the final spiritual anchors that we gonna anchor our way out of this comes from Philippians chapter 4:11. It says, I have learned in whatsoever state I am, therewithin to be content. I have learned in whatsoever state I am, therewith to be content. That is also supported by the Dhammapada, where it says, live in joy and love, and by the Tao Te Ching, where it says, the master gives himself up to whatever the moment brings. He lets things come and go joyfully. That is also to know that whatever state I am in, therewith to be content. For Sufi teaches us that Sufi teachings show us that joy is not made, it is remembered. This is why I say we have to remind ourselves. To remind yourself that joy is present every day. You're just not seeing it. And lastly, John 3, chapter 3, verse 8 says, the wind blows wherever it pleases. So it is with everyone born of the Spirit. So for me, that was like, you can't tell where they've been, but you know that they go because of Spirit. Like you can see that something is moving this person. I don't know where they've been, but I can tell that they're going. That's Spirit. Also, it's aligned with Spirit. You learn not to cling to things. You just flow. You don't cling to things. This is what, when they say like, let go. And if it comes back to you, that's how you know. You don't cling. So that is your life. You don't hold on to things. You allow them to go and return. You are simply learning from what Rumi says, which is your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. So your task is not to seek for love. I know we out here trying to find love and the love connection, and we going on all these sites and apps and doing all this, trying to find love. What we are to do is to merely seek and find all the barriers within ourselves that we have built against it. So it's not that you can't find it. You have to remove the barriers within you, blocking you from experiencing it.